Okay, welcome back everyone. Nice to see you guys. Hopefully you had a really wonderful lunch. We're going to start our afternoon with some meditation, the breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness, just like we did this morning. And then I'm going to move into this talk about cultivating healthy mental states, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. So if you guys would like to join for the meditation, you guys know now the seated, lying, standing position. There's the chanting, and I'll just guide you guys through. Just make yourself comfortable. Over the course of the entire course, you'll get an opportunity to be practicing meditation in the morning and in the afternoons, and then you'll kind of see how it really affects the mind in a positive way. And then perhaps you might decide to stick with this meditation practice so that it can continue to benefit you long into the future. So I'm going to start with some chanting and ease us into meditation and then go from there. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Hotang Mahakewanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakewata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakewa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rogavito Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanam Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and the hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Once the breath is well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May my family and friends be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. Now go back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Makavata Dhammo Dhammang namasami. Supatipano mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang namami. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vicacaranang sammuno Sakato rokavito anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatava manusanam Oto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Any questions on loving kindness meditation now that you guys learned it this morning and you've practiced it twice? Anything you guys would like to ask about? I don't see any questions here or online. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to move into today's topic, or this afternoon's topic, which is cultivating healthy mental states, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity. This is chapter 14 in that volume 1 of the book series. That's where you're going to be learning about this particular content, and then I'm going to share it here for you so that you can understand it as well. So I'm going to describe to you these 4 individual mental states. I'm going to explain to you the symptoms that you're going to see if you aren't practicing these fully. And then I'm going to explain to you how to actually cultivate this in your mind. So this first one we've already talked about a bit this morning, which is loving kindness. This is active goodwill towards all beings without judgment, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. This is actually true love, where you're not expecting anything from anyone. You're not wanting anything from anyone. You're not judging others to determine if they deserve your love or not. You're just practicing this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, every single being in the world. And this is what you can ultimately get to. You may not be there now, and that's okay, but gradually, slowly but surely, you work in that direction. And it's cultivating this loving kindness is going to help you to be able to do that. So understanding what it is important. It's this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, active goodwill, no judgment. Sometimes when people are being taught certain healthy mental states, like respect, some cultures teach you, don't respect others until they respect you first. This might be something you hear. So if you're practicing loving kindness in a situation where I'm not going to practice loving kindness until other people practice loving kindness, this is conditional loving kindness. This isn't actually loving kindness. This is conditional experiences. The mind's craving for other people to do something, and I'm only going to do this if they do it. This isn't what you would like to get to. You can't get to enlightenment that way. That's still a conditional experience. And if everybody was doing this, nobody would be loving anybody. nobody would be respecting anybody, because everybody would be holding back and saying, I'm not going to respect anybody until they respect me first. Well, if everyone in the world did that exact same thing, nobody would be respecting anybody. And if you did that with your love, where you were judging other people to try to determine whether they deserve your love or not, and you're only going to practice loving kindness when you've determined through your judgment that they deserve your love, this isn't what an enlightened being would do. So you're going to need to break through that and have loving kindness for all beings, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well without judgment. Okay, what this does is it remedies this unwholesome qualities of anger, hatred, ill will, and all those lesser versions like irritation, annoyance, and dislike. There's frustration, agitation, all of these different lesser versions. They're coming from the same problem, which is this fetter or this taint or this pollution, this defilement of ill will. So loving kindness is going to antidote that or remedy that through wearing that away. You're going to be moving out through applying right effort, this anger, hatred, ill will, frustration, agitation, annoyance, irritation, dislike, moving all of that out through applying right effort to cut it off and let it go. And then you're applying right effort to bring in the wholesome qualities of loving kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. You're going to need to support that, encourage it. Don't allow it to fade away, because you probably have a certain degree of loving kindness in your mind already. So support that, encourage it, apply the effort to bring that to full perfection and full development. The way that you do that is through cultivating loving kindness and loving kindness meditation, like what we just did. If you do that regularly, more and more, the mind will become loving and kind. Like I mentioned, you'll be rewiring the mind, cultivating the mind through loving kindness meditation. But then you're going to need to practice loving kindness in daily life through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. So by developing the mind with right mindfulness, where you can identify these unwholesome qualities of anger, hatred, ill will, and these lesser versions like irritation, annoyance, and dislike. When you identify those unwholesome qualities arising in the mind, even the bodily sensations before it becomes a feeling in the mind, then you apply right effort to cut it off and let it go. Get rid of that unwholesome quality, and then apply right effort to bring in the wholesome quality of loving kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. So, for example, say you're sitting on a park bench somewhere and you're looking across the park and you see somebody and you start realizing this hatred is coming up in your mind. Maybe you see certain aspects of them that you don't like. Maybe they have a tattoo. Maybe they have a boyfriend and you don't like their boyfriend, or they have a girlfriend and you don't like their girlfriend, or maybe they're talking in a certain way that you don't like, or maybe they're wearing certain clothing that you don't like, right? And you start noticing this hatred coming up in your mind. Right away, you'd like to cut that off, let it go, and then cultivate the wholesome quality of loving kindness. Have a genuine interest in seeing that person be well. You're not going to agree with everything they do. Just have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. Get rid of that unwholesome quality, because that's a burden to carry around. That'll make you feel exhausted. If you ever feel really tired and exhausted at the end of your day, that's from carrying around all this craving, desire, attachment, wanting things to be a certain way. And then when you don't get what you want, you get those painful feelings. And that's really burdensome to the mind. So if you notice those painful feelings coming up, you cut it off, let it go, applying right effort, and then you bring in the wholesome quality of loving kindness. And this is why your breathing mindfulness meditation is so important, to cultivate that mindfulness and concentration so you can observe these unwholesome qualities and you can bring in the wholesome qualities. Okay, so this is loving kindness. The second one here of these healthy mental states, referred to as Brahma-viharas, is called compassion. Compassion is the concern for the misfortune of others, where if you are on one side of compassion, you might have worry and anxiety when you see people going through misfortunes. But if you're on the other side, you would be indifferent. You could care less what happens to people. Who cares? That's their karma. Just let them suffer. Who cares, right? You can be on either side of this. Whereas if you have a craving for everyone in the world to be super well taken care of, and you see somebody going through misfortunes, you'll worry, you'll have anxiety, you'll have sadness maybe. So compassion brings your mind to the middle, when it comes to indifference, if you're feeling indifferent, or if you're having this worry or anxiety about the world. Compassion is going to bring your mind to the middle, where you can have concern for the misfortune of others. If you have worry in the mind, that's because you see all the problems in the world. And your mind's worrying about all those problems, right? The governments that you might grow up in a certain country, you see all these things that your government's doing, or the people around you, or your neighborhood, or your families. You might worry and have anxiety about all the things that are going on in the world. This is the mind holding on to the world, wanting it to be a certain way. But also, if you were indifferent and you could care less what people did, and you were like, I don't give a whatever, right? You might think that way. Well, that would be the opposite side. You would like to come to the middle, where your mind is concerned for the misfortune of others. You see somebody lacking food, you have concern. Where you see somebody maybe doesn't have a home, maybe they're homeless, you're concerned about that. It doesn't mean that you necessarily take action to fix it. You may take action to fix it through practicing generosity if you can help, but that doesn't necessarily go along with compassion at all times. Compassion is just having the mental quality where you're concerned about the misfortune of others. So it brings your mind to the middle, where you don't experience this worry and anxiety, and you don't experience this indifference. So wherever you see with your right mindfulness these unwholesome qualities of indifference or worry and anxiety related to people's misfortune, then you apply right effort to cut those off, let them go, and then arise this wholesome quality of compassion, where you have concern for the misfortune of others. This is that symptom and prescription that I was sharing with you. If you understand the symptoms that I'm talking about, and then you can remember the prescription, you can be your own doctor. This is where the Buddha gets the reputation of being a doctor, where you can see a certain symptom in the mind, and then you apply a certain antidote or a certain prescription. But you can be your own doctor if you understand this well enough, and you train your mind to be able to notice it and then actually take action to fix it. So do you guys have any questions on either of these two, loving kindness or compassion? Mm-hmm. Let me see if we have any questions. Yes, if you could get a mic.
So I guess it falls under both, but this question came up when you were talking about loving kindness. I think for a long time, and maybe other people relate to this default, it's easy for me to tell when I'm judging others and actively work on eliminating that. It's much harder for me to tell when I'm judging myself. Mm-hmm. The negative self-talk, I think, is stronger than the negative talk about others. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because you don't really recognize it at first. Mm-hmm. Do you have any suggestions for that loving kindness applied to self-love?
Yeah. So the same thing that you're using to be able to see that the mind is judging others is the same thing that you need to see that is judging this being who you are now, which is your mindfulness. That's where the breathing mindfulness meditation is so important, to cultivate that readily on a consistent long-term basis. If you haven't been doing meditation the way that the Buddha teaches, which is what I share in these classes, in these courses and programs, then your mindfulness isn't fully developed yet. If you don't have full awareness of those four foundations of mindfulness, the bodily sensations, the feelings, condition of the mind, and the mental objects, then your mindfulness isn't yet fully developed. So you're going to need to bring your mindfulness to full development. The Buddha talks about complacency in his teachings, and he talks about this being a hindrance to your enlightenment. That if you're complacent, meaning you're dull or lethargic or lacking the interest to take action to fix a particular issue. And he talks about how this is a hindrance to a person's enlightenment. That if they're complacent, they're not going to be able to do the work. They're not going to have the willingness or the initiative or the motivation or enthusiasm to be able to make their way to enlightenment, because it's a significant amount of work to get to enlightenment. And he talks about complacency, not only like, okay, you don't meditate, you don't come to learn, you don't read books, things like this. He didn't say these exact words, but essentially he's talking about those kinds of things. But he even brought it all the way down to, if you're walking down the street and an unwholesome thought comes up in your mind and you don't do anything about it, then you're complacent. So you're going to need the mindfulness to be able to observe those thoughts, those feelings, the various things that are going through the mind, the judgment of yourself and others. And if you don't take action to do something about it, which is to cut it off and let it go, then the mind is complacent. So you're going to need to arise what's called the enlightenment factor of energy. This is one of the antidotes to this complacency, is bringing in the energy, the willingness to do something, the initiative, the motivation, the enthusiasm. So if you do enough meditation where you cultivate the mindfulness, now when you can see this judgment towards others or towards yourself, now you take action to cut it off and let it go. And as you're first getting going, also, the mind doesn't always have the ability to internally cut it off. Sometimes you need to redirect the mind. So say you were sitting at home on the sofa, and with your mindfulness, maybe you're noticing that the mind is starting to judge this being who you are, right? And you're sitting on the sofa. Rather than just sit there and dwell in that judgment, a better thing to do would be to get up and go for a walk or to go for a bike ride. Redirect the mind somewhere else. Over time, as you do enough meditation and practice generosity and you develop the mind with mindfulness and all these things, you'll be able to internally cut it off just by sitting there on the sofa. But as you're making your way to that, you can redirect the mind. So I know your question is more about how to observe it. That's just developing your mindfulness with the meditation. But then once you observe it, you need to take action to be able to redirect the mind or cut it off and let it go.
Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely stated it as how do you observe it, but I think you answered my question that I didn't ask correctly in my head anyway, because what I've spent hundreds of hours doing is mantra meditation and the repetition. So it's very easy for me to see when my thoughts aren't focused, when other thoughts like seep in. And when I'm meditating, that's great. When I'm out on the day-to-day life, it's definitely
went off. I have to turn it back on. The batteries are impermanent.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Better. So what I was saying was when it comes up, I think I've spent a lot of hours practicing noticing when it's coming up. In fact, I think having the mantra practice and being able to notice is one thing. What I've, experienced here learning the Buddha's meditations is a little more of what to do about it. And that's what your answer went to, was now retrain your brain by getting off the couch, doing something to not just, okay, nope, that was a tangent, focus, mantra. I think that could help that application. Definitely.
When you say that you have done mantra meditation, what is that for you? Can you describe it to me?
There's been a couple different types, but it's repeating a phrase, or it could be repeating, focusing on the hum sound of the breath. Breath is a part of that too, but mostly, so when you repeat something and say Om is your mantra, right? You're repeating that, and so you'll notice when your mind deviates. If you're Om, oh, I wonder if I turned off the, oh wait, Om. Keeping a repetition allows you to see when your mind drifts. That's what the mantra is for me.
I see. Okay, so the Buddha taught this meditation that I share with you, the breathing mindfulness meditation, to focus on the mind so that your mind can let go. And I hear about these kinds of meditations where people not only do those things, but they will count, or here in Thailand, they will do pu, to, different things like this, even music and things like this. And this doesn't actually allow the mind to fully let go. So it's not being trained to do what it ultimately needs to do in order to get to the enlightened mental state, or the peace and the joy, is to let go. So I would encourage you to do less and less of that and kind of phase that out 100%, even though it's gotten you to where you are today. It's not going to allow you to get to enlightenment because the mind's still holding on. You're going to need to train the mind to be able to let go. And this is the breathing mindfulness meditation that will help you to be able to accomplish that, so that in that moment, when your mind is judging itself, you can let go. You can train the mind to let go. But if you're in meditation, if you're holding on to the Om or counting or puto, some of these other things that people teach, or music, then the mind hasn't been trained to let go. So it'll find it very difficult when, whether not only judgment, but any of this anger or irritation or worry or anxiety, the mind won't know how to let go because it hasn't been trained to do that. It's just holding on because of the way it's being trained in meditation. So the closer you get to what the Buddha actually taught, it'll arise the qualities that you need to be able to get the mind to the enlightened mental state, the peace and the joy.
Absolutely. I noticed that in my very pleasant discomfort. I like being in meditation and experiencing discomfort because I know it's not coming from the present moment. And I'm used to, with my other types of meditation, I've learned focusing on a chakra, focusing on a mantra, keeping and training my focus. Whereas I almost asked this question earlier. So where in my body do I focus? I guess it's the breath. Is it the nose? Is it the lungs? Is it breathing through my third eye? I don't know. Like, for me, there's always been like, in meditation, this almost like a regimen that, you're not supposed to let your mind go blank. You're supposed to focus on what you want to focus on, whether it be a mantra or your posture or whatever, and train your brain to focus on the things you want instead of letting the other things come in. When I was doing the loving kindness or just breathing or breath, I noticed it was harder without, I focus on my posture, I focus on my mantra, I focus on this, and this, and I'll train my brain to focus on what I want it to. And this was a very different practice with like kind of letting go of needing to focus on something. Just letting whatever come up.
Yeah. And that's where the mind, not only in meditation, but outside of meditation, now your mind will be overactive. And you were talking about that earlier, how there's all that energy in the mind. That's why, because in the meditation, it's bouncing around, focusing on all these different things. And you would like to make it very simple, very easy. That's one of the things that a Buddha does, is they make their teachings very simple and very straightforward so that the common person can understand. But the challenge is 2,500 years ago when the Buddha taught, since then, there's been all this impermanence where people have changed and modified what he taught. But if you get back to his original teachings and you see what he originally did, it's what I share with you. And in my other classes, I share his guidance in meditation, but you can see it in any of the books that I share. You can see his original words where he instructs meditation, and you can see where he talks about focusing on the breath and then cutting off and letting go and bringing the mind back to the breath. That's what's going to build in that quality of building awareness of the mind, building the concentration, and then being able to easily let go. That's the three things that you're looking to build, where these other meditations that people have invented after his life, they're actually just complicating the situation and not really giving the mind the qualities that it needs to, in the moment, when you're experiencing any of those unwholesome qualities, to be able to cut them off and let them go.
You can definitely incorporate some more of that practice. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll help you a lot. Okay, let me see if we have any other questions. Edmund, welcome. You're not wearing your green pants today. I almost didn't recognize you. All right, let's see if we have any other questions here. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. So let's move on to the next two Brahma-viharas. By the way, this name Brahma-vihara, what Brahma was during the lifetime of the Buddha is, this is how they referred to God. Much like a individual in the Muslim tradition would refer to God as Allah. It's just a different name referring to this supreme being. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used this word Brahma. God, or the Buddha didn't make God a central role, a central figure in his teachings. He put you as the central role in his teachings, that this is how you need to train your mind. But he definitely taught about God, but he just didn't make God a central role. And there wasn't rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship from the Buddha on these things. But in the community, people had belief in multiple gods during the lifetime of the Buddha, prior to the Buddha ever even teaching. And people did do rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship for this being of Brahma. And they actually had Brahmin priests, or what we would refer to as a Hindu priest. They were called Brahmin, and they were the ones who were responsible for teaching people how to do rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship for this god of Brahma. So we would translate this to God. In the word vihara, what this translates to is abode or dwelling. So the Brahmin as part of the Hindu tradition, were teaching the Brahma-viharas. They were teaching this is the way that you dwell with God, right? That's what they were teaching as part of their teachings, along with their rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship. So when the Buddha came in and started teaching his teachings that lead to this liberation, to this peace and joy of the enlightened mental state, he knew that these 4 Brahma-viharas were important to cultivate in order to get to enlightenment. So he incorporated them into his teachings, but it's not to dwell with God. That's not the way that he taught them. He taught them as a way to antidote the specific challenges that you're experiencing in the mind. And that's how I'm teaching it to you. But now you understand where this Brahma-vihara comes from, is that these Brahmin priests were teaching that this is the way to dwell with God. By cultivating these in your mind, their ultimate goal was to die, go to heaven, and be with God permanently. But the Buddha is teaching you how to cultivate the mind to uproot these unwholesome qualities so you can get to the peace and the joy, so that in this life you can experience peacefulness. So that's the root of that. I refer to these as the 4 healthy mental states, because I think that's a better way to think of them, because that's ultimately what you're doing, is cultivating these 4 healthy mental states in order to remedy certain symptoms in your mind. Remember, symptom and prescription. If you understand the symptom, then you understand the prescription to apply. And you're going to need to know that when you're out there in the world and you're noticing certain symptoms come up in the mind, what is the prescription that you apply? Okay, so that was loving kindness and compassion. Now we're going to be learning about sympathetic joy and equanimity. So sympathetic joy is joy for others' success, even if you didn't contribute to it. Okay, this is joy for other success, even if you didn't contribute to it. So your coworker gets a brand new house. Ah, wonderful, Barbara, congratulations. You didn't contribute to it, right? You didn't do anything for that, but congratulations, wonderful. Or somebody's going on a trip, even if you really want to go to Brazil, and this person's going to Brazil, and now you notice that, why do they get to go to Brazil and not me? No, you need to practice sympathetic joy, which is joy for other success, even if you didn't contribute to it. Because the opposite of that is this envy or this jealousy, and also some pride comes in there as well. So if you're noticing the envy or jealousy arise in the mind, you would like to bring in the sympathetic joy. So say you're at work and there's a new position that opens up, and 4, 5, 6 different coworkers apply for this new position. And you've applied, you've interviewed, you're really hoping to get this job. It's going to be more money, more responsibility. It's going to help your career growth, and it'd be wonderful for you. And maybe you're sitting in your office doing your work, and all of a sudden somebody comes by, Susie comes by and says, hey, guess what? I got that promotion, right? And now, you really wanted that job, and you're noticing the envy and the jealousy come up in the mind. That's because of your craving. You were craving, you were longing and yearning, and that's what's producing the envy and the jealousy. So you need to cut that off and let it go to eliminate the unwholesome quality of envy and jealousy coming up. That's going to help you eliminate your craving, desire, attachment. And you need to apply right effort to do that. But then you're going to need to apply right effort to bring in the sympathetic joy, where you have joy for others' success. So even if all you can do is smile and say, that's wonderful, Susie, so pleased for you. Maybe inside you're still jealous, you're still envious. That's okay. That's where you're at now. You're quietly envious. You're quietly jealous. Whereas if you were overtly envious and jealous, you might have some unskillful conduct with Susie. You might say something rude or something disrespectful or something impolite, and this is going to damage your relationship with her. So more and more, as you get rid of your cravings that are producing this envy and jealousy, and you bring in the sympathetic joy, more and more your mind won't experience any of the envy and jealousy. You'll just always have sympathetic joy. No matter what's happening around you, you'll just be very pleased for anything that's going on with anybody around you. So this is how you do it. You're going to need to gradually move the mind in that direction. And in some cases, you're just not going to feel it. Maybe all you can do is smile. Right? You're not going to really be able to feel this and cultivate this quality. But remember, it's like a pathway. Rather than going down this pathway of jealousy and envy, which is leading to unwholesome results, you're getting out your machete and you're breaking through the bushes, and you're trying to create this new pathway where you can now experience this joy for other success, even if you didn't contribute to it. You're essentially rewiring the mind, not allowing it to go down this path anymore of jealousy and envy, but instead going down this path of joy for others, success, even if you didn't contribute to it. Then you've got, I've already shared about how to cultivate this, which is practicing right mindfulness and practicing right effort. Then you've got equanimity. Equanimity has two components to it here. I'm going to explain both sides, and then I'll help you understand it. So here, the first aspect of equanimity is mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. Okay, so this is like you get that phone call from the doctors, from the nurse, or from a family member that your mom's in the back of an ambulance. She's been in a major accident. She's on her way to the hospital. You need to have equanimity, calmness, composure, evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. Grabbing your car keys, running out into your car, bolting across town to hurry up and show up at the hospital isn't helping anybody. It's not going to help anyone. You're just causing harm. You could get into an accident yourself as you go along on your way to the hospital. At the very least, you're going to show up to the hospital with your mind all shaken up and all frazzled. And now when the doctors and nurses are trying to talk to you because they need you to make a decision to help your mom, you're not going to be able to do that because your mind's all shaken up. So what you would like to do is maintain your calmness and composure, your evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation. So you get some news that somebody's passed away, you get some financial news, maybe your kids come home with a report card that is less than what you're interested in them having. You need to maintain your calmness and composure. Getting all frazzled isn't going to solve anything. So when your mind is calm, you can then have mindfulness or awareness of mind. When you have awareness of mind, you can have concentration, focus, clarity. And when you can have focus and clarity, then you can access your wisdom and you can make wise decisions to then produce a wholesome result. But if your mind's all shaken up, if it's all uncalm, you're not going to have mindfulness or awareness of mind. Then you're not going to have concentration. That focus and clarity is going to be completely gone because your mind's all shaken up. And now you can't access your wisdom, and you're going to make unwise decisions, like grabbing your keys and running across town to hurry up and get to the hospital. Or your kids come home with a report card that you particularly don't care for. You might start yelling and hollering and screaming at them, and now you damage your relationship, right? So by maintaining your calmness and composure, this is going to help you to eliminate this restlessness in the mind, this worry, this anxiety, and this overactive mind. That's what happens when the mind is all shaken up. You have this restlessness, this worry, anxiety, and overactive mind. So you can calm the mind down. If you can notice with your mindfulness, your right mindfulness, that you have this restlessness, this worry, anxiety, this overactive mind, if you're noticing that about your mind with your mindfulness, now you can apply right effort to cut that off and let it go. And now apply right effort to bring in the equanimity, the calmness, the composure, the evenness of temper. Maybe you get a phone call, or maybe you're with your child or some other family member and they actually get injured in your presence and you see them laying on the ground bleeding, right? If you get all frazzled and your mind loses control, you're not going to be able to help this person. So by maintaining your calmness and composure, you have your calm mind, you have your mindfulness, your concentration, you can access your wisdom. Apply a tourniquet, call an ambulance, get somebody there to help if you don't have the skills. Or if you have skills, you can apply some first aid and help this person. So that's why equanimity is so important, because you're going to run across certain challenging situations from time to time, and you're going to need to have this equanimity. The next part of equanimity, notice the root word of equanimity is equal, right? That's the root word of equanimity is equal. So the second part of equanimity is treating everyone impartially, treating everyone fairly, right? If you were in a work environment, you have 6 or 8 coworkers, and if you went out to lunch and you bought your favorite coworker a milkshake and you gave it to that person, the other 5 or 6 of them, they're probably going to get jealous because they don't practice sympathetic joy, right? They're not practicing sympathetic joy. They don't realize that they have craving, desire, attachment. They don't understand the things you understand about the world. So when their cravings are rising and their painful feelings are rising, like jealousy, and now they're going to attribute those painful feelings to you, they're going to think you're the one who's causing them to feel that. And now they're going to push you aside. And you're going to have difficulties in your work environment. So when you're in a situation, you would like to treat everybody equally, everybody fairly, whether it's work, whether it's children, if you have multiple children, if you go home for the holidays and you bring one person a gift, you like to bring everybody a gift. I had an elementary school teacher one time when I was in second grade that she one time caught me chewing gum, and she said, okay, if you're chewing gum all by yourself, you got to spit it out. Go spit out your gum. And she's like, I spit out my gum, of course, because that's what the teacher asked. She said, if you would like to chew gum in my class, you're going to have to bring a piece for every single person in the class. I was like, all right, I'll do that. Went out to the store, bought a whole bunch of gum, came in the next day or next week or whatever. I gave everybody gum. She honored her word. She let us chew gum in class in second grade. We all chewed gum, right? So that's the way that you would like to practice, not with the bitterness and harshness. I don't think she was bitter or harsh. I think she was quite friendly when she was talking to me. But nonetheless, keep this story in mind that you don't want to be that lone person that has the piece of gum. You would like to share with other people and be generous. So if you're ever practicing anything like bringing someone a milkshake or bagels or something like this, make sure you share with everybody. Treat everybody impartially. If you're a boss and you give one person a bonus, give everybody a bonus. If you give one person a raise, make sure you give everybody a raise. And of course, you're going to throttle that and adjust it based on performance, but everybody should get a raise, right? You would like to treat everybody equally, where if you treat one group of people one way and another group of people another way, they're going to get jealous, and now they're going to attribute those painful feelings to you, and they're going to push you aside. You're going to lose employees, you're going to lose friends, you're going to lose family members. It's going to lead to broken relationships. So in terms of getting to harmony in relationships, you're going to need to treat everybody equally. And this is going to help you to eliminate any arrogance or ego if you're treating everyone impartially. Because another part of this is making sure that you don't put yourself above people and below people, that you look at everybody as the same as you, right? There's a certain fetter in the mind called conceit. This is part of the ego. Well, the equanimity, where you're treating everyone equally and you're looking at everyone as being equal, this is going to help you to eliminate your arrogance or your ego as well. And there's other things that you need besides this to eliminate your ego, but this is just a piece of it. I talk in volume 1, chapter 16 about eliminating the ego and how to do that. But here, this is just a little piece of it. So the same way you cultivate all the rest is the way you cultivate equanimity. You cultivate your mindfulness or awareness of mind using breathing mindfulness meditation. You would like to develop those 4 foundations of mindfulness fully, right? And now when you develop the 4 foundations of mindfulness fully, you've got that awareness of mind that you've cultivated. So now whenever you see restlessness, worry, anxiety, overactive mind, arrogance, or ego arising, you apply right effort to cut that off and let it go. And then you bring in the wholesome quality of equanimity, whether it's calmness and composure to eliminate the symptom of restlessness, worry, anxiety, overactive mind, or whether it's treating everybody equally, everybody impartially. You would like to apply the right effort to bring that in as a wholesome quality. Okay? So this is the 4 Brahma-viharas: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity. You'd like to know the symptoms, and you'd like to know the prescription of how to apply this in any given situation. So any questions on any of this? Edmund, you have a mic. You must have a question. You can just set it on the floor, yeah, so then we change it.
Thanks, yeah. I don't know, the question is just so thought-provoking, some of these things. Sometimes in meditation, I'm struck just by how, not just distracted, but just my emotion can be quite, I can not just be angry, I can be really angry or really sad or all of these things. And I understand my distractions and my mind jumping around is probably just a way of trying to defend against that. And I suppose my life back in England, I had other many external distractions and structures in my life that would, I suspect, prevent me from looking at a lot of those things. As you were talking, I was reminded of something I read a few years ago. It was by a monk, and he suggested that a lot of people, and I think it applied to me maybe, he said they should really work on the practicing the 5 precepts before they even think about meditating. I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that. Mm-hmm. You know, when that kind of, when meditation can actually feel really quite difficult, and, trying to cultivate sympathetic joy or sharing the joy of others and forgiveness and things like that can almost feel out of reach, really, yeah. I think.
Sure. These things are all in support of each other, right? When the Buddha would teach, he would first teach right view, the Four Noble Truths. You can see it very clearly. Whenever he gets a new student, he would teach them the Four Noble Truths. Because if you don't understand the problem, the cause, the elimination, and the path forward, how could you ever get on the path to enlightenment if you don't understand what the true problem is and the cause of that problem, the elimination, and the path forward? So he would start his students with right view. Then he would teach them the moral conduct, which is the right speech, right action, right livelihood, which is the 5 precepts. That would be the next thing that he would teach them. Because as long as you're out in the world causing harm to others, that harm is just going to keep coming back to you. So the sooner you can shut that down, the better, because now you've basically cut off a significant amount of your unwholesome karma. So now that you don't have as much unwholesome stuff to come back that you're going to have to deal with. So next would be the moral conduct. Then he would teach them meditation. But you can accomplish all of that in a matter of a few days or a week or two. It's not like you need to be practicing the 5 precepts for 3 months before you could ever meditate, right? Because these things are in support of each other. That if you have an urge, or you have a craving to kill, or you have a craving to steal, or you have a craving for sexual misconduct, or when we lie, there's some craving there that we're lying for, or you have the substances that cause heedlessness, you need that meditation to knock down the cravings so that you can better practice the moral conduct. And you need that generosity too to knock down the craving so you can better practice the moral conduct. But also by practicing the moral conduct better, it'll make your meditations better. Because if you're out in the world causing harm to others, this is going to weigh on your mind. So these things are in support of each other, and it's important to be practicing them regularly. So if you remember back to when I taught the way of practice in your foundational course, where you learned about generosity, moral conduct, and meditation. This is what you're doing on a daily basis, because the generosity is helping you eliminate craving, desire, attachment. The moral conduct is shutting down the unwholesome karma production. And then the meditation is also helping you eliminate craving, desire, attachment. It's helping you eliminate anger, hatred, ill will. And it's helping to support you to practice the generosity and the moral conduct as well. So all these things go hand in hand together. So that's why I teach them like in one course. I'm teaching them all together. Like in your foundational course, I taught them all within that same course, because they go together as a package and they really support each other and feed off of each other.
Yeah, thanks. It just seems to me, the more I listen to you speak, the importance of wisdom, Mm-hmm. Because I can hear these, and I've read various different teachings over the years, and it resonates with me so deeply. It's like when you hear something, yeah, of course I understand that. The Buddha's teachings on different things, I think, yeah, of course I understand that. But if I'm out and about and I quickly can indulge myself in anger, theft, whatever it may be, an intoxicant, sexual desire, whatever it may be, that's just not wise. That's just foolishness. Mm-hmm. But how to do that? You know what I mean? Just how to not walk around and feel guarded and irritable and angry, and how to actually look around and feel kindness, compassion, and a wish for good for the world and for all around me. I always feel very separate from my mind. I feel like my mind is this thing that will dictate how I feel. It will, evoke how I feel that day. My mind dictates to me. I've never been able to come and go, oh yeah, I feel this incoming negativity, whatever it is. Okay, cut that out. I found that to be incredibly difficult over time. Sometimes more difficult than others, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, wisdom is the number one thing that you're working to cultivate on the path to enlightenment, because without wisdom, you would never understand craving and anger, how to eliminate that. You would never understand the fetters, the meditation practices, all the tools and techniques. So you're always working to get to that wisdom. And when you get to that wisdom, you can see the truth more and more, and you can see how disinteresting these conditional feelings really are. There was a question by Steve that was here earlier this morning, and he was saying, what is the motivation behind getting rid of some of these cravings? Because I get pleasant feelings out of them. And I was helping him see how those pleasant feelings are conditional. They're only temporary. And your mind's going to ultimately end up in the sadness and the painful feelings. You need to value and appreciate the peacefulness and the joy so much that you're completely disinterested in this temporary pleasure, because you realize with wisdom that you're ultimately going to end up in the painful feelings. If you allow your mind to get such pleasant feelings about it being sunny outside, then eventually you're going to end up in the painful feelings when it rains, right? Or if you get so pleasurable feelings about that piece of chocolate cake, when that chocolate cake isn't there, you're going to get the sad, painful feelings. So by valuing this peacefulness, this unconditioned happiness, this unconditioned joy, by valuing that and seeing anything else short of that as being uninteresting, then it can really motivate you to let go of these cravings and realize that by cultivating wisdom, you can really transform the mind and get to a point where the mind's experiencing that peace and joy permanently. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions here. I'm not seeing anything else. No other questions anywhere? Okay, so what I'm going to do then is just in class here. Like I mentioned, we end kind of around 3 o'clock, but we finished up this morning a little bit earlier, so we're finishing up this afternoon a little bit earlier. I'll just thank you guys for coming. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow. Thank you to those of you guys here. Thank you to everyone online. I appreciate you guys deciding today's a day you'd like to learn the teachings of the Buddha and dedicating some time to do that, because it's helping you, it's helping those close to you, and it's helping all of humanity. As you become wiser, you become more loving, more kind, more compassionate. You're not causing harm to others. It's helping you, it's helping those close to you, and it's helping all of humanity. So this is like the best thing you could ever do with your life, is train your mind to be more and more harmless and loving and kind and compassionate with others. So I'll be starting tomorrow morning with these topics here. We're going to start with true love, love without attachment. This is where you're going to understand what true love is. We oftentimes misunderstand what love is in the unenlightened state. So once you get in touch with knowing what love is, you'll be able to practice it more readily, which means true love will come back to you. Right now, if you find it difficult to experience love from other people, that's because you're not practicing true love. You don't quite know what it is, so you're not practicing it. And then even if somebody does practice true love with you, you're not going to be able to identify it if you don't know what true love is. So I'm going to be teaching you about true love first thing in the morning after we do our meditation. Then we're going to move into understanding practicing in a world of the unknowing, relationships with non-practitioners. Because it's wonderful when you live in an environment where lots of people are practicing the teachings, like here in Thailand, but there's some people here that don't practice as well. But when you go to other places where people aren't practicing the teachings, what do you do there, right? Like maybe in this community, it's great being around people who are loving and compassionate and friendly and respectful. But what do you do when you go back out into the world where people aren't practicing these teachings? I'm going to teach you guys about that as well. And then after lunch, I'm going to be sharing with you how to guide children along the path. So I'm going to check in with you guys. Some people, when I talked to you guys earlier, you don't have kids, you're not interested in having kids. Some people, even though they don't have kids, are not interested in having kids, they still like to hear this because they have nieces and nephews, they have cousins, they have friends that have kids, and they might be interested in helping them. So you might still be interested in learning this topic. This is our topic in the afternoon. Okay, so you guys have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Be well. Bye to everyone online as well. You guys take care. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.